Hello everybody, it's Keith. Help support the Northeast scene and declare yourself a member today. Subscribe to us on Apple Podcasts or your podcast medium of choice. Rate us and leave a review. Every little bit helps. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. It has every podcast episode plus other exclusive content. Like and leave a comment. Follow us on Instagram and Twitter at TheNEScene. Also, continue to write us at northeastscene@gmail.com. We want to share your experiences as well. And now, here's the show. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Northeast Scene Podcast. This is Keith.
And Tommy.
How's everybody doing? You know what time it is. It's podcast time, and we're here, and tonight's guest is none other than Anthony Green. This is one of the ones we've been waiting for, Tommy.
Yeah, we got a funny story Anthony's going to tell when he gets on about this.
Oh, really? Already?
Yeah, because it was so funny. It was like, I'll wait till Anthony gets on to tell it, but it was like hilarious. It was like when Anthony and I started talking, one of the first things he said after we like kind of like explained, just talked about our families and stuff. He was like, "Does Keith not like me?" And I was like, "No, why?"
What?
And I was like, "No, why?" And he's like, "Well, he's never asked me to be on the podcast." And I was like, "Remember, I asked you a few months ago." And he was like, "Did you?" I'm like, "Yeah, dude." He's like, "I don't remember that." I'm like, I'm almost positive I asked you because I only have a handful of people I know that I can call to be on this thing. I've exhausted everybody by you. Like,
you know what? When it's funny, that's funny to hear that, because when it comes to Anthony, I specifically try not to bother him with anything, because I imagine there's tons of people asking him for things.
Oh, yeah. I would imagine It's just like when he was like, "Oh, here's my email." In my head, I'm going like, do you know how many unread emails he probably has?
Yeah.
Just because I know how, like, I'm sure he's much more responsible than he was when he was in high school. But like in my head, I'm going like, I guarantee you, he just goes through a ton of stuff and is like, "Fuck that, fuck this, fuck that. I'm not opening this." Like,
yeah. I just wanted to wait for the right time. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, and now's a great time, dude. It's such a good time right now, especially because I feel like there's just a lot going on in terms of like the main topics that we seem to come back to on this are like old stories from when we were younger, addiction issues, and then music that is kind of like shaped and formed our lives. And Anthony was one of those people that has kind of like gone through all those same exact things. And he kind of checks all the right boxes in terms of like what we need, like not what we need, but like the themes that we've kind of like been keep going back to on this show. And, like, I guess we'll get into it in the show, but like, I've known Anthony since I was 14 years old.
Yeah. You guys we could do just a show on you guys, and maybe we will, who knows? Yeah.
I was going to say
I'm just going to let this shit run.
He's fucking super amped about this. Like I know when he's been texting me, he's been like so excited about it. He's like, "I can't wait to talk to you guys. I can't wait to tell old stories. I can't wait to just..."
That's awesome.
So it's really going to be nice. And it's one of those things that like him and I we always reconnect eventually, but there's been long periods of time where we just haven't spoken or only spoken through text.
I haven't had a real conversation with him, meaning lasting more than 5 minutes, probably since 2012.
Yeah, I think the only last time I hung out with him and I spent a few hours with him and my family and one of his sons, probably 3 or 4 years ago. We went to go see Circa up in Stroudsburg.
So also making waves in the world of the Northeast scene was our last episode with Casey Iodine. Now, that turned out to be a really good episode. Tons and tons of great feedback. People seem really excited about the relaunch of Iodine Recordings. And I thought it was awesome because they weren't really on my radar at all. And just, I don't know, to get the history download and everything was great. And also, Casey was right about Gregor Samsa. That band is fucking awesome.
You know what I was going to say? I went and searched them out almost directly after we were done. And guess who has all of their albums?
Who?
World Has Post Rock. You know that YouTube channel?
That's where I listened to it.
That's fucking, they have such the great, if you don't know that channel, subscribe on YouTube. It's called World Has Post Rock. It is phenomenal. Now there's duds every now and then. Like there's some stuff that I get and like you can tell in the first like 10, 15 seconds, like, oh, this really isn't for me, or like, this isn't up my alley. But at least, I mean, every time I listen, I find something new, especially if I put it on shuffle and just click around. There's a band that I'm dying to re-find. I listened to them one night when I was doing a ton of work and I can't find them again. Very, very, very reminiscent of Hammock. And for some reason, the name has escaped me since like July. I can't fucking, and it's like killing me because every time I'm down here doing work and I'm like sitting here like typing or like just working out on like, you know, equations on like a whiteboard or something like that, I'm like, God damn it, I wish I had that music because it's like, that's what I work best to. Like things that are instrumental or things that have very, very few vocals. It makes it so much easier for me to be able to kind of just concentrate and focus on the work and use the music as like kind of just background noise.
Yeah, that's good studying music. That's when I was listening to it. I think one of their records, they have a record called Home.
Yeah.
Or something like, yeah, Home was what I was listening to. That's really awesome. I want to listen to the rest. Just a great band. They were not on my radar at all, which surprises me because I'm so ingrained in post-rock.
Yeah, it was funny when you first said, hey, yeah, I got the dude from Iodine. I was like, fuck yeah, all right. And then I was like walking around and I was like, Iodine. Oh, wait a minute. I'm thinking Epicac. Like, I'm thinking about that Epicac recordings. They had some fucking dope shit too. Like, that was like, for like a solid like 3 or 4 minutes, I was like, yeah. Oh, wait a minute. I don't know that. I don't know that label.
Epicac is the dude from Faith No More's label. What's that? Mike Patton.
Mike Patton stuff. I just know that it's like they put out a bunch of stuff right in a row.
ISIS.
Yeah, it was
ISIS.
There was a rap album, and I don't remember the name of the band, and it's for some reason.
I only know ISIS.
It'll come to me eventually, but I literally was like, yeah, they had some really, really great bands on there, but I was like, oh yeah, no, that's Dalek.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So get this.
Yes.
When I was home for Thanksgiving, I went up into my old storage space and the original NES was there with all the games that we had when we were kids.
Oh my.
So I brought all that shit home and I'm working on getting the NES working. I'm almost there. And I got an original controller from eBay. So that's going to be fun. And guess what else I found? I have like a whole shoebox full of cassette tapes of like talk shows that I did just by myself.
Oh no.
In my room. And I used to just let cassette tapes run and we would like play video games and I'd record it. So I essentially invented the Twitch stream.
Or at least the audio portion of it.
Yeah. So no, but like I was listening to it and it was a real trip. Like I was kind of freaked out because in grade school I got bullied real bad by this group of kids and I'm listening to the tape and I'm like, hey, and 2 of the fucking kids are at my house. Like I'm hanging out with them and I was like, and I clicked it off and real quick and I just sat there like staring at my desk.
Whoa.
It was really, really weird. And it's funny in the tape, I'm like, we're like playing video games and I'm like, all right, we're at this level. We're going to come back when he gets to this level. Goodbye. And I'd hit stop and I'd come back and I'd be like, all right, we're back. And then my friends are over hanging out and I'm like, all right, you say something. Come on, say something funny like you did last time. I'm just like, I guess I've always been a pain in the ass.
You know what I keep thinking of is, do you ever see that movie Man on the Moon about Andy Kaufman?
Yeah.
There's that scene where he's like a little kid and he's in his room and he's playing with the tape recorder and he's pretending he's like the talk show host with like all his stuffed animals.
Yeah.
That's what I keep thinking about is like you in your room being like, and ladies and gentlemen, good evening and welcome to, like, that's like you practicing like your like radio voice or your like broadcaster style.
That's exactly what I was doing. So I guess I was born to do this. You know what I mean? Because with music, it's like I had to wedge myself into that. I had to learn to play bass. I had to learn to play guitar. I always struggled to get into bands. It didn't feel natural, but recording bands and sitting by myself and doing talk shows and video production and all that kind of stuff is just, that's stuff I've just always done, or at least did when I was younger. And now it's back.
No, and you're good at it. I've always said that. Like whenever you send me videos, remember the one you sent me, that was one of the funniest ones ever. People aren't going to get this reference, but it was a Mikey Miles video that you made. It was like the
trailer for the
trailer
movie.
for the movie about Mikey Miles.
Yo, I still watch that and I get like emotionally moved by it.
It's good. I'm telling you, it's really good. It's funny. It's like clever. It has all the right twists and turns that like you don't like every single like trailer kind of like trope that they have, like you did, and it was spot on.
Yeah, if anyone knows who Mikey Miles is, or if you just want to see the trailer, it's on our YouTube channel. Check it out.
Yeah, he is, and he blocked you, right?
Yes.
You're not missing anything.
No, I know, because I have other accounts that I can just look at it through.
Oh, okay. I was gonna say because he's got a job now, and I'm like, it's been like 3 weeks.
It's been over 3 weeks. This is a record.
Yeah.
This is a record, but no one knows what we're talking about, so I'm going to...
Yeah, let's switch, because he's like a bummy actor that everybody just teases.
He's not even an actor. He just pretends to be. All right, Mikey Miles 160. Follow it on Instagram and enjoy the ride.
Yeah.
You'll thank me later. All right, so what else is going on?
Not much. I have a lot of stuff going on. I have a thing that I have to present tomorrow at work. We use that new software. It's called Edge Elastic. So I have a like 45-minute to an hour presentation that I'm doing with 3rd grade through 8th grade. So they're going to be like, I don't know, 75 people on this call. So,
oh man.
And I have to present my screen because it's all like using the software. So I have to present my screen the whole time. And,
do you get nervous before that?
Not really. I guess like right before it, like as I'm logging on, like I can kind of get the jitters because I always think like, oh, what if something goes wrong? Like I can't get something to load correctly, or like, you know, my computer crashes. But then I always think like, that's not my fault. Like, I'm prepared. I know what to do. I know what to say, and I know what order to say it in. So it's kind of to me like, hey, just get up here and explain the information. And I think the biggest thing that, I really need to do when I especially with these virtual kind of things, people check out really fucking easy. Like I do it like when I'm like, so we have to make it like at least engaging and somewhat interactive. So people are like, I hate to say this, but like on their toes. Cause I'm just going to like cold call people and be like, hey, when you're on this page, what should I click on? Oh,
that's a great method. There was trainers at my work who would do that. They would call on people and ask them questions.
Yeah.
You have to do something like that.
It's kind of a shitty move, but it's also the same time, it kind of lets people know like, look, you got to pay attention to what's happening right now, or you're going to get embarrassed in front of 70 people. It's just the fact of the matter. And the thing is like, it's really important because it gives us good data about what the kids know and what they don't. So the faster people get used to it and understand it, the better off they're going to be. But to convince them of that is difficult, especially when it's been like, you know, this year's been a little weird, like with just teaching virtually from home and stuff like that. But other than that, I have not been sleeping well. The baby is teething. She's up like, so the baby hasn't been, the baby's been teething. So she's been up like 2 to 3 times a night. Which isn't long. When she's up, she's like 15 minutes, 20 minutes, and then she goes back down. But it takes me a while to fall back to sleep after that because it's kind of jarring, like just to wake up in the middle of the night to hear a screaming baby.
Yeah, I wouldn't be able to get back to sleep. And I still remember my younger sister teething, just all the screaming and agony. I still remember it. It was wild.
It's really hard to watch because like, you can clearly see like when she's sitting there, like where you're just sitting there playing with her, she fits like the first 3 fingers in her mouth and puts them in the back of her, like the kind of like the pouch of her jaw and just gnaws on them.
Oh,
So we've been giving her teething rings and just being like, I keep them in the freezer, and so they're
yeah.
nice and cold. But she doesn't like them.
Oh no.
Yeah, so it's been a problem. Like when you pick them up and give them to her, she literally goes like this, "Oh, cold." Like they're cold. And I'm like, I know it's cold. Put it in your mouth, please.
I got to meet this baby. I haven't met this child.
No. Yeah, I was thinking about this the other day. When's the last time we physically saw each other? March, right?
The first 4 episodes of this podcast that we recorded.
So that was March. That was the first week of March. Holy shit, dude.
Yeah.
Can you believe it's going to be a year that we're basically going to be inside?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, because it's happening in real time. I can totally believe it.
Yeah, no, that's kind of my thing.
I feel like, I don't know. I said this to Anthony earlier today. Like, I think this is, despite the pressure of like online teaching and kind of like everything changing all the time, and it's kind of like everything's in flux. This is the happiest I've been in a very long time.
Me too.
In terms of especially my professional career, I really feel happy about being home. I love the fact that I get to spend, like, I eat lunch with my kids every day. Like, that's a huge benefit to me. Like, I know sometimes people complain like, wow, this is a lot of extra work. And I'm like, yeah, but you have no commute. Like, you don't drive to work anymore. You don't, like, you can take lunch at your house. You can literally, you don't have to pack a lunch anymore. Like, you don't have to do any of that stuff. Like, none of that stuff has to happen. You don't get stuck in traffic. Like, it just doesn't, you walk down your fucking steps. Like, I wear jeans every day. Like, cause you can't see me from the waist down. Like, I wear a dress shirt and jeans, and it's like, no, like, I get to wear jeans every day to work. I'm wearing slippers, for Christ's sake. Like, it's nice. Like, it's a nice feeling. And I was saying to Anthony, I was like, I wish I could find a job that would allow me to continue to work like this. Like, just to stay home. I don't mind the hours of like being on the computer for like 8 or 9 hours a day. That doesn't bother me. I like being here, and I like it's not isolation. What do you call that? Like the
insulation.
Yeah, it's just, it feels really good to be here. Like, I just like being in my house. And I
agree with you. I'm happy in my career. I get to work from home anyway, but there's much less travel now. I'm happy with this podcast. We really enjoy it, and a few people seem to enjoy it as well. And that's it. Yeah.
And it's like, it's all, the biggest thing now is, I think the feedback we get from people is so nice. Is like, the one thing that seems consistent is people are like, I feel like I know you guys. I'm like, good. That's kind of us. Point. That's the point of this, is like to kind of like just tell our story and tell kind of the story of bands and the scene. And I will say this though, I'm still like, when I hear people say the scene, it's still kind of like, ugh.
I like it because I like the elitist angle of it. I want to say the scene. I want to be called a scenester, and I want to be on the inside and have everybody else on the outside. What do you think of that?
I think you're very confident.
I'm saying that like tongue in cheek.
I know. I was going to say, I think you're very confident. I just, when I hear scene, I think scenester immediately. And I think of like, Mr. Spock haircuts and like 3 like shirts that are too small from, a youth baseball place you didn't play.
Right. Well, we're going to have to create a new version of scenester, a new updated, cool version. All right, folks, we're going to talk to Anthony now. So here he is. All right, folks, we're here now with Anthony Green. Anthony, welcome to the show.
Howdy.
It's awesome that you're here. I've been highly anticipating this conversation. One, because we all have a rich history together. I mean, we grew up together. We went to the same shows together. 2, you have big time history with Tommy. You guys played an Audience of One together, and we're going to dive into some of that too. And 3, I mean, you've got a lot of stories to tell. You've been in a lot of bands. You've done a lot. So this is going to be a great story to tell.
Dude, I'm stoked. Thanks so much for having me on. I'm like, told Tommy that I was like listening, and every once in a while I would be like, man, when the fuck are they going to ask me to do this shit?
We were talking about that in the opening segment, and I'm going to be honest with you. Anthony, when it comes to you, I always imagine that tons of people are bothering you for shit. So I was like, I'm gonna wait. But eventually we got around to it.
Man, I have to make sure I clear the air on that because nobody ever hits me up for anything. So like maybe everybody's sitting around thinking like, dude, everybody hits him up. Like, no, dude, nobody's hitting me up, dude. Throw me a bone, baby.
All right. Well, I'm gonna get your number. We're gonna start a band.
Dude,
we're gonna start.
I'm in.
We're gonna start a new podcast.
That's my vibe right now.
We're gonna do a short film. We're gonna do it all.
All right.
So, what's going on? How you doing this week?
Right in this, I can't have the week that. Whoa, whoa, hold on a second. I'm not biting off chunks of week time here. I'm right in this moment right here. I'm grateful, and I have a heart full of gratitude. You try to start talking about a whole week there, I'm gonna get overwhelmed here. I'm gonna throw up.
Yeah, a week in the times that we're in could be like a year.
Yeah, I don't even.
Yeah.
So and there it literally has been times where like from one week to the other, I go from like a crazy extreme. I'm good, dude. Life is good. I'm sitting in this little area in my basement where I can write and work and record, and I haven't really had that capability for a while. Being home and being off tour has forced me to like get better at recording myself, and that's a huge plus. I'm not trying to kill myself today. I'm not on crack or heroin. That's cool.
That's always good.
Yeah, everybody in my family's happy and healthy. There's lots of love to be spread. I can't complain.
Yeah,
can't complain.
That's great. Yeah. So about the home recording, I've heard some of the stuff you've done for the Circa Survive Patreon, including the Interpol cover, which my friend in the band said he really dug.
Really?
Yes.
That's sick.
Yeah. I was like, I just blind sent it to him. I was like, yo, check this out.
One of the coolest things about that band for me is that their watching their trajectory has been fucking cool. Like I love every record they've ever put out, and they get crazy. Their last record is like my favorite thing. And to be a band for that long, go through all that shit and still put out a fucking record that is like, holy shit. Like there's a song where he's just like, if you really love nothing. And he just says it in a way where I'm like, it still just makes me feel like that thing that's alive in music is always going to be there no matter what idiot is trying to sing in front of a microphone, Yeah. And it really, that gives me hope because it's way easier to be an idiot just singing in front of a microphone.
Yeah. Do you find that now in real life, I'm an extremely shy, withdrawn person. I even have a hard time looking people in the eye, but put me up on a stage or put me behind a microphone on this podcast or put me up on a stage to do some acting and I get shit done. I deliver. Like I'm fearless because I'm like, this is my job. Yeah. Do you find yourself feeling the same way?
I think that, it's a similar beast that we're taming, Yeah. There's an adrenaline that plays a role like as an observer, and like you're kind of going into this state where there's ego death or there, and so you have to embrace some shit that is difficult, and there's people that can roll with it and people that can't. And I think that in real life, whatever that, like throughout your day, would not having that thing to tap into is definitely difficult, but you in real life are the same person on stage or on this podcast or whatever, it's just you, how you divide it up equally so that it makes more sense for you.
Exactly. And Tommy and I were talking about that in the first segment because people will write in and say like, oh, it's like I know you guys. And I'm like, yes, this is literally us. Yeah. This is us. I mean, you hear Tommy on the podcast, Anthony. It's the same guy. It's
great. Well, that's one of the things that made me most attracted to him as a human being when I fucking saw him walking on my bus as a kid, like a skinhead with like fucking patches all over himself and like combat boots walking in. And I was like, damn, who the fuck is this dude? Like, and he was so like what you see is what you get, and like totally nice guy. Like you'd think like you think would just be like ready to fight you in any minute, but like is the sweetest, also like chill and like was into cool music. And like, I loved that, that idea of something that was like kind of, like he wasn't afraid to be himself at all, and that's something that makes me, that's something that I admire about Tommy. Like I always will. Like he has that confident nature in himself, where he's just like, he moves, he makes the action, he does what he's got to do, and he's cool.
What grade were you in when you guys
I was
met?
a freshman. I think he was a sophomore.
Yeah.
It's my freshman year.
And that was 100% like my super like crust punk phase of and it was really funny is like Anthony and I went to a fairly
Catholic
well-known
all boys private high school. So I'm like I'm in the uniform and I'm like, fuck this shit. I hate this shit so much. Like I don't know what the fuck I'm gonna do. Like, and I'm like super into like Minor Threat and Mighty Mighty Boss Tones and Green Day and Metallica and like I like everything my brothers like, but I'm like really trying, like getting into like punk, and like I was super like green, like I was super new at everything, and like I met this dude who had all these cool bands that like I've heard of, like I knew who like the Vandals were, but like I never had listened to them, or like there's so much music Tommy introduced me to. Tommy actually told me about a radio station that I started taping at night. Like Tommy's the reason I literally heard so much music. He's like, yeah, you got to listen to Princeton radio. This is the radio. And we had Walkmen and we listened to the radio. So like, and he was like, yeah, I taped this radio station, and he would tape it and I would tape it, and we would talk about stuff we heard. We were talking about like Hot Water Music and Falling Forward and like cool shit. And it was and I also heard grindcore and crust punk for the first time in my life. Like, and I was
that station was sick.
Dude, it was so cool because at that age, like I was like, dude, I can make grindcore.
Yeah.
Like I could do it. Like I could put my finger down, like drop D, like boom, and just and just scream and like and I was angry. I hated shit. So, dude, Tommy walking into my world, like it was a crazy experience. And here's the thing. In my life, I've always had like this, gotten so lucky and fortunate in every fucking way. And even ways where I thought I was completely cursed, it was still somehow like the luck of the draw in a way that I didn't understand at the time. And I was so nervous about going to the school. All my brothers went to a different school, and I was going to this private school. I was getting teased about going there. I didn't know anybody there. It was all rich kids. Like, it was a long story. But anyway, Tommy walks up and I see him, and it's like fucking the lady in the shell, in like with fucking like angels. Fucking, there's like a light, a crust punky light behind Tommy, and like the Casualties are playing in the background, or like Anal Cunt is playing in the background. And Tommy walks on the bus, and I'm like, everything's gonna be all right, man. Like I saw Tommy and I knew what that fucking Bob Marley song was about, where it's like, everything's going to be chill, bro. I was like, oh, fuck yeah, dude. I'm going to get to be friends with this guy. I don't care.
It's almost like fate. That's beautiful.
Yeah, and I was worried that he was like a skinhead, like a neo-Nazi. But I realized that like right away, like he was like, if anything, he was like one of those like skinhead type of dudes that like were like super anti-neo-Nazi, but like confused you about it. Yeah, because they're like some of those. Like, there's a lot of like, there was like some fucking like weird Nazi people showing up around Bucks County at that point.
Oh yeah,
and like
there's a couple weird. Like I just remember, and they weren't even like Nazis. They were these dudes that remember the Trihampton YMCA.
They were like skinheads.
Yeah, they were like these guys that like. I remember the one guy had longer hair though, and he was like clean cut. He wore a flannel shirt, like tucked in. And he was like, he would have these pamphlets, and it was all about like, not like racial purity, but like
nationalist shit.
Yeah, nationalism. Like it was like that whole like,
dude, I remember
America first.
I remember being at the Ivyland skate park and meeting somebody and like getting drunk with him, and we were like kind of making out, and then finding that they had like a fucking like a crazy tattoo, like a crazy like neo-Nazi tattoo, and I was like, oh no. My god. And they were like, yeah, and they like try to say something about it, and I was just like, fuck.
It's like, all right, see you later.
My bad for everything.
So you and Tommy meet, right?
Yeah.
You're connecting via music. How do you decide you're going to start playing music together?
Well, so Tommy and this guy, Jeff Coulter, would jam in his basement, and they had like a drum set and a guitar amp. And at that point, I was just like, dude, I'm going to figure out a way to get a guitar so that I don't have to ask my parents, because I know that would be a thing where like, and I think I even did like go to my parents and I was like, hey, I think I want to get a guitar. They're like, well, maybe you ought to get a better job and maybe you ought to get better grades. And I was like, okay. So I was like, all right, I can scrape together $100. So I spent like a little bit of time scraping together $100 and I bought a bass.
Oh, yes.
And
I had that bass. I had that bass for a while.
Yeah, well, then I left it at your house because I was just like, I just wanted to jam with you and Jeff. And that sort of evolved into Audience of One. Well, because Jeff was like so crazy and like couldn't hang. And then we met a guy at school who was like a crazy good drummer. He was like in the jazz band at school, like so good, but also like loved Slayer and shit and was like fucking great, but it couldn't hang really. And he was like a cool dude and everything, but then also wasn't sometimes like about certain shit, had like some anger issues. And like, I wasn't a cool dude either, but like he was just like not cool. Me and Tommy weren't cool dudes, but like we could hang with like anybody, you know, but like this dude, but then I was at a show. Tommy and I talked about it, and I think I was at a show and I saw Colin and I was like, hey man, do you know any drummers or do you want to like start a band or whatever? Like, I don't know. I was just trying to find people to like jam with, like that could jam past 10 o'clock and like could play shows and stuff. Cause we were like with that point, Tommy and I would just go up to people at the YMCA or at like a church basement and just be like, yo, we have a band. Like even when we didn't, like, yo, can we play? Like, how do we play? Or we would call numbers on flyers and we did that shit, you know?
Oh my God.
We liked
Dude, remember we changed the name of the band like 8 times.
It was like Handsome Pete.
Handsome Pete for a little while, which is a Simpsons reference.
I still have a Handsome Pete like patch somewhere.
Then there was the Bill Bixby Experience.
Bill Bixby was like a total rip off of like the Charles Bronson. So it was like, but it was like Daryl's idea, right?
Yes, and it was like then the other thing was then it was Junction 232.
Junction 232 was my favorite thing. There was a song, dude, that was kind of hardcore. It was like kind of like Shai Hulud, but it was kind of pop punky too. We had a song as Junction 232 that was so good. It was fucking that guy from a handsome guy from LaSalle.
He was like he looked like an 80s, like in the 80s movie when there's like the bad guy that's like the bad guy,
the guy who's like a great skier who tells you like who you have to like ski.
You gotta like he has like a varsity leather jacket on, even though it's like the wrong time, like
a Johnny Lawrence type.
Yeah, you have to like somehow beat him in skiing to like save the slope for your family.
Yeah. But he was like then we started really like kind of how did you find, because you found JD, do you remember?
Yeah, that's what so I was at I went to go see just I just went to go to a show, and it was Days Away was playing and Colin was playing drums for them, but it was like so it was Days Away, but it was also like Mid-Iron Blast Shaft or something was there, and like I went to go see like James Love Jackson or somebody, and they were, or the Idea Man. It was like some band that I like loved from the area. It was like James Love Jackson or Mid-Iron Blast Shaft or one of those bands, and they were playing with Days Away in some place in Lansdale or in like Bristol or something. Fuck. But I remember being there and seeing Days Away for the first time and being like, holy shit, this is like if Jimmy World and Sunny Day Real Estate like took like acid and made like a baby and like was even better than all of those things. And I was in love with him. And when I saw Colin, I knew him from This Day Forward. And I was like, holy shit, like maybe this guy will start a band with me. He's in 2 bands already. And so I was like, hey man, would you want to play drums for a band? He was like, no, I'm in like 6 other bands, but I have a buddy who's so good and he's better than me and he should be in a band. And he gave me JD's number, and I literally called JD and he was like, when do you want to jam? He was so cool and like chill. And I didn't know anything about him, like nothing. Like we just called him. He came over to jam. We started talking about music, and like he turned me on to music too. Like it was like this crazy thing, man. Like there was no like, I couldn't check this guy's Instagram to see what he was all about.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? There was no references. Like, this was just like Colin, this one guy I met once who I saw play drums, gave me a guy's fucking phone number that I had to write down and call from a phone with a wire on it in my house, attached to my house, and be like, hey, do you want to come to my house with your fucking drum set and jam with me? And it was funny because at the time, he came over and we started playing an Audience of One song that's called Show Your Teeth. And I think that was, we literally just, it's like one chord progression the whole way through, like 100 times. Yeah. But there's like the vocal changes slightly or something. I don't even remember. It was like a fucking Captain Jazz ripoff, but I couldn't play, you know? So like, I knew 2 chords or 3 chords and I played them back and forth and I sang something that sounded like a feeling that I could compare to one of those things. So I was like, cool. Promise Ring, fucking whatever.
Yeah, Cap'n Jazz always comes to mind when I listen to those old records, those Audience of One records.
Cap'n Jazz was the king of fucking kings.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Let's hear for the King of Kings right now. Like when I listen to Cap'n Jazz, like I'm just like, holy shit, man. Like the thing about it that was so cool is that it was, you know, at the time, going into a studio and playing music, like it was just these guys like played these songs live. They went in, they played them, and you got this energy that like you got at a basement show from the thing.
Yeah.
And that was something that is not replicated now because everything has to be to a grid, everything has to be straight, everything has to be in tune. Like there is no dissonance or it's program dissonance, you know? And
right.
I miss that so much about music, you know?
Yeah, and it's really captured in those early Audience of One recordings. I mean, you can hear it's really raw. It still sounds like you though.
Yeah.
Like, did you, I mean, you just figured this shit out as you went along, right?
Yeah.
Like singing and playing and everything else.
Yeah, me and Tommy both did. I mean, we felt it out together. Like he never questioned anything like songwriting wise. Like Tommy only ever added shit. He was just like, he just made shit cool. Like if there were parts that needed to jam, like he jammed. Like he jammed before I ever even knew what jamming was. Like, you know what I mean? Like Tommy would just like look at what I was playing on guitar and just start playing a bass thing, you know, and like did bass runs that were cool. Like, and then like, it's like, I would play bass too. Like we would really like had a cool vibe, like where it wasn't like both of us knew we didn't know anything and we're just trying to have fun and make something. And neither of us had like a cloud of judgment around it. Where we were like, we knew it wasn't trying to be good. It was just trying to be something. Like we weren't trying to compete with like Boz Henna or like any of these bands that we would see play. Like we just wanted to be around it, you know? And that was cool. And we knew how we could carve our own little niche that way.
Yeah. I think one of the other things that was kind of like, it was always strange about with Audience of One, it was like, we would just come in with like, hey, do you remember the 4-song EP?
Yeah.
JD wrote a whole song.
Yeah.
And I remember
he like showed me what to play.
Yeah. And he was
I remember it not making any sense to me at the time because there was another guitar part that he was doing. So at the time, JD had this idea to do this guitar part. And like half of the song was a song that we like kind of jammed on. The other half, he had it was instrumental.
Yeah, with the xylophones.
I'd never put vocals to it. I always want to put vocals to it. That 4-song EP was like, it's still the coolest thing I ever did. And no one's ever heard it.
That's one thing that should come of this podcast. You put vocals to that last song.
Yeah, dude.
And we're going to talk about potential Audience of One rumors later in this episode.
Dude, I would do anything.
I need to get a bass.
Like, here's the thing. Like, dude, I got one.
I need to learn how to play again.
I got a drum set. I got a bass. You should see my shit right now, dude. I'm hooked up right now, dude.
You know what's crazy though is like this is one of the things that like with JD, it was like we would go to his basement because his parents were so chill, and we would just
hang out. Everything. And he had that 6-string bass. Yeah. He had the xylophone. He had a drum set. He had a keyboard.
He had amps that people just left there. I think at one point he had a PA that I think Greg Itzen might have just left there, or somebody stole and left there or something. Bob would come and use it for shows, and it would disappear for like a week.
But it was like JD's basement was like he also kept all his CDs down there. So like
Dude,
we would
you know what the thing about it is his parents didn't give a fuck because he got straight A's no matter what. He would skip school, he would do whatever he wanted, but he killed it constantly. He was just one of those people. Like
he was a genius first. Like that was one of the things that kind of first like when
yeah, he would also do anything for anybody. Like the dude volunteered. Like he was the first kid I ever met that like volunteered and did shit. He did animal rights shit, but he like, dude, he was he would give anybody the fucking coat off his back too. Like he was like an alien, man.
And he was like, he was the president. He was the class president.
Yeah.
He was like the most popular kid in school.
Yeah.
Yes. He was like, and he was vegan. President. He was vegan when I didn't even really know. I didn't know what it was. Like I kind of like understood like the basics.
And like did shit where they would go into the mall and steal animals,
from the pet store.
Steal animals from the pet store and bring them to places where they could like get like proper care and get adopted to better people. And like he would go and like like there would be animals, like they would do fucked up shit where they would go like steal horses that were going to get euthanized and save them. Like crazy shit. JD was like a dude when I was like 16 and just getting my license and just like hanging out with JD. He would take me in his car and he would go off-roading behind his house and scare the shit out of me because he was just like one of those dudes that just like, I don't know, man. Like he was crazy.
He legitimately didn't even care. Like, and it was,
I would tell his parents would tell my mom and dad that, I could stay over and like we would do whatever. We drove to the shore one night. Like he'd be like, like my parents would be like, just let me know. And I was 16 or 17. I was like, come on, like let me do whatever. And I would skip school and go with Jay. We would, dude, at least 3 times. I remember just being over there and one time being like, dude, I had to call my parents and like had to call and be like, I'm staying over JD's tonight. I don't have school tomorrow. And we drove down the fucking shore and like watched the sunrise and like went to a diner and like I had the best time my whole life.
We used to do that a lot around that time and that age. Yeah. I loved spontaneous, wholesome shit like that.
When I think about shit now, though, I see 16, 17-year-old kids like around like now because I'm like 40 and I have like nieces and nephews that are at age and they don't do shit like that, man. The world isn't like that.
No,
not at all.
Like it just doesn't happen. Like there's no like, dude, I would be at a diner till 3:00 in the morning, like at like 17 years old, like smoking cigarettes, like going to random people's houses to hang out. Like I don't know if that shit goes down anymore. Maybe it is, and I'm just like a fucking old fuck. But
no, I think people just hang out on the phone or computer now.
You mentioned getting your license, Anthony. Can we talk about your driving for a moment?
On record.
This is about to be a deposition.
Let's talk about my driving. All right. I'm going to start off by saying I'm on the longest no accident run of my entire career.
2 weeks?
No, dude. It's been years.
Wow.
Years. But from a person I was at one time, I do have a spiky area there for a period of time where some cars, I was in debt. Let's just put it that way.
There was a period, like this is one of my favorite.
Do you remember the guy I used to buy the Saabs from? Yes. That had the shop on Street Road that was like, fuck. He was such an asshole, dude. I fucking hated that.
That Saab you drove is legendary.
There was 4 of them.
There was 3 Saabs, and because there was one Toyota crashed in 2 weeks. Yeah. Then I worked for a while and bought the Saab. I worked at Goodnose, and I bought the Saab. And then an accident happened that wasn't my fault. Got a new Saab. Accident happened that was my fault. Got help. Got a new Saab. And then remember when the guy fell asleep in the wheel and crashed into us, Tommy?
Oh yeah, the Dunkin' Donuts. Yeah, we were coming home.
Do you remember when that girl crashed into us on the way home from school? And we were just like, "Fuck you, just go home."
So no, all right. So this is how I remember that story. So we're driving home from school. Keep in mind, Anthony and I had a 45-minute drive each way in the morning. So we're driving.
Favorite thing ever, actually.
It was amazing.
We would just get stoned and listen to music the whole time. We listen to full albums and get stoned the whole time.
I still have one of the cassettes upstairs.
Scare you. I would get drunk and stoned on my way to school every day.
It was so funny. It was so scary. But we came home from school one day, so we're driving down the street, and I think we're looking for a tape.
Damn.
And we're both looking for it. You're still driving, and it had just finished raining. Anthony slams on the brakes, and because he looks up and sees there's a car coming really close. So he slams on the brakes. They're stopped at a red light. We hit this girl's bumper, and I mean hard. And before he even the car has barely come to a stop. He leans over to me and he goes, "Watch this." And he gets out of the car. He comes up. He stops the girl before she gets out of the car. And he's like, "Hold on a second. Let me just go look." And he just goes, "Oh, no. There's a bunch of people behind us. Don't worry about it. There's no damage. You're good to go." And she drove away. But before Anthony got out of the car, he literally looked at me and went, "Watch this." And I was like, "Oh, what is happening?"
I have zero recollection of that.
So did you have experience in talking your way out of accidents before?
No. So I remember coming home from school, like literally at a place that I remember hitting a pole at, and a girl hitting me from behind and pulling over and being like, the car was fine. And this girl was losing her shit and being like, you're fine. Get out of here. But I do not remember hitting somebody and getting away with it ever. Because every time I hit somebody from behind, I remember I hit somebody from behind and got fucked and had to like pay all this money and my insurance went up. And then I got in some serious shit later on when I was living in Doylestown, when I was like drinking real hard. Where I fucking hit a car and then took off from the cops and then ran to the woods on Xanax and then like fell asleep in the woods. And then when I woke up, there was 1,000 police everywhere looking for me. So I came out with my hands up, but then the police started to fuck me up and I was still fucked up. So I was like, "Fuck you." And then I was just like, "Fuck, why are you fucking hurting me?" And my reflexes are to defend myself. I'm literally unarmed by all these dudes who are obviously, it's like, dude, there's an obvious thing here. Like, I'm chilling. Like, I'm not coming out to fight you at all. This is completely unnecessary to stomp all over me. And I kicked in like a thing that like where I'm like fighting my dad all of a sudden. And then I got arrested for all of this shit. I've gotten so many car accidents. I got so much dumb shit for so long. I even hate saying it because I know my kids someday will hear this and be like, "Dad," but they're all better than me anyway. And they learn I talk to them about it so they know that like Dad fucked up, so I don't necessarily have to go do all that shit. But
how much legal repercussion was there for that incident? Were you on probation for years? What? For how long?
2 weeks.
Holy shit.
What year was this?
Oh, fuck. It was in the 2000s.
Shit.
It was like 2012, maybe.
I used to be a master. This isn't something to be proud of, but I used to be a master at talking my way out of DUIs.
Yeah, this was like a DUI, hit and run, assaulting a police officer, and I could have gotten way more time. Way more. Yeah. This was nothing. And I didn't even go to like jail. I went to like where you go for like the last 90 days of your sentence, like, and work release people, but it was scary. I hate it. It was the first time I ever tried Suboxone.
That's where my mom worked. Remember the fucking
she worked, dude. I would have loved to see her mom. Holy shit.
They call it the men's rehab facility.
I knew one person there, and I met him after 2 days. And he was a guy that I was in Horsham Clinic with when I was there for, I was in Horsham Clinic for a month for like mental health shit. And I met this guy again a year later in jail. And I was like, this is great. And he was my buddy, but he almost got me in some trouble. And a guy with a Circa tattoo was in there who had Suboxone. And I had not taken like pills in a while. I was drinking a lot, smoking weed, but I hadn't taken any like perks or Xanax, and I wasn't doing dope, hadn't done dope in a long time. And so he told me what it was, and I was like, fucking, it all sounded a little bit like mumbo jumbo, a little bit. And I'm in like, this dude sells drugs in jail and is like hooking me up and like being nice to me. And like, so, and he's like, don't eat this whole thing. It was a tab. It wasn't like a strip. It was
it an 8 milligram?
It was an 8 milligram, like an orange stop sign. And he was like, dude, just take like a piece of this, put it under your tongue. Do not swallow it. And so like, I took like a half of it, and I'm there. And I also have to do drug and alcohol counseling during the days there that I'm there. So like certain days I have to go to this thing. And I did 1 day of drug and alcohol counseling, met this guy, took the Suboxone, and then I was like, fucking, I don't feel shit. And for a while I was like, fucking don't feel anything, dude. This is weird. Like no rush, like no nothing.
Yeah.
And then I can't even remember how it kicked in, but all of a sudden it was almost like stronger than the heroin that I ever remember taking. It was stronger than any heroin I'd ever remember taking.
Wow.
Yeah, that's interesting. I've never taken it by itself just to
That was
come
the
back.
only time, Keith, it's the only time I've ever had that experience with it in my life. The rest of the time, anytime after that, and I also didn't see it for a while after that. I would still get perks and stuff. Like after that, I literally felt it for like 2 days and I was fucking wrecked. And it snowed like crazy. Okay. And like, so the drug and alcohol counseling got canceled. We couldn't drive to the place to do it. So the next day, I was still sick. I could barely walk, dude. I was throwing up, but I was also euphoric. And I was in jail, and I had a little radio that the guy who I was sharing a little cell suite with let me use, and he had like, he never used it. And it was like one earpiece AM/FM radio, and I was like, it was so fucking sick. And I loved it, dude. And I spent the whole 2 weeks in there. And by the end of the 2 weeks, like obviously because of the way that shit works, I didn't understand at the time, but it just like didn't really work the same.
Yeah.
But I never really saw it again I didn't see it for years until I started doing dope again. And then I saw the strips, and it basically was a way that I first tried to get clean with it because somebody told me like you could get yourself clean with it. And I think it might have actually kind of worked, but the problem is that it worked. And then I wasn't afraid.
But then you have to get off that shit.
Yeah, then I wasn't afraid to use it again. Like, I think I actually had an experience with it once where I got myself clean. This is back about 7 or 8 years ago when I started using hair. I got clean for a second with it, where I took where it was like one half a strip. Mm-hmm. And I was like, and I wasn't using that. I was like using like I wasn't even that strong. I was just getting mild withdrawal, but to me it was like the end of the world because I didn't know how bad it could get. And so I used the sub to get off of it, and I felt like it was scot-free because the way it was coming out of my system was like taking so long that I didn't, the withdrawal was probably so mild that I just was like, whoa. And it didn't scare me enough. So I hopped back. My habit got worse again when I hopped back on it immediately, almost immediately, like probably that week.
Right.
And then that cycle happens,
Yeah, I started taking it and I was like, great, I'm cured. And that lasted about 2 weeks.
And then it never works again the same.
Yeah, and I went back to what I was doing, and I figured out I could take subs during the week to be okay at work. And then on the Thursday through Sunday, I would get fucked up again. Yeah. And it's like that cycle continues.
Saying that and reading it, you minus out the actual wanting to kill yourself 24/7 that comes with the side effect of both of those things for some weird reason.
Yeah.
Like it's both the cause of like whatever issue. Here's the thing. And like, I don't look at drugs in general at being either good or bad. Like they're neither, in my opinion. I have a bad relationship with myself.
Yes.
And I'm working on, and my shadow. And that's stuff that I'm working on. And I know that in order to do the work that needs to get done so that I can be autonomous, I need to take a break from all that stuff right now. I also know that I said goodbye to booze a long time ago for some reason. I haven't drank in over 8 years. And I'm just like, I don't know what happened. Like, I just was like, fuck it. And I literally through all my relapses with heroin, I just was like, at one point, actually, I stopped drinking when the first time the heroin got really bad after high school and shit. Like in Circa, I stopped drinking because I couldn't manage. Like, it was fucking up my heroin habit.
Yeah.
Like I would get, if I drank and I blacked out, like shit would go, like I couldn't manage it. It was like, it almost was like, all right, I'm just going to focus on this thing because I like it the most or something. And
plus, if you're puking all the time, you can't drink. Dude, that was my thing.
It sucked. It made everything like one drink, maybe like I just couldn't manage it. I couldn't manage it. And so I just stopped doing it. And it was, I had gotten so much trouble from drinking too, like where I just wasn't myself and I was just drinking so much. Like I fantasized that I just became fat wannabe Jim Morrison. And I was just being a jerk to people. And I hated it. And so I stopped drinking after a lot of bad experiences, like just like getting arrested overseas or getting barely arrested, like saying mean things to people in a blackout where I'm like, I don't mean that. Like, holy shit. Like I don't know what the fuck demon came out of me. Like, I'm so sorry. Like, so I stopped drinking, but then the heroin thing, you know how that is. Like, so my relationship with myself, I need to work on. And I don't know if the stuff I'm dealing with is ever going to be in a state where something that is as pleasurable as booze or heroin will ever work with the chemistry of my like acting psychosis, my like survival psychosis or whatever I have to be in this planet. But there are things that are probably be cool with it. Like I can do other shit. Like music is an actual escape for me. Like if I apply to it in the right way, like in the same way I applied like getting dope. Like if I apply like myself to like making something, like even just making something, like I feel like a kick from it, like an actual kind of a high. And there's other weird shit you can do that like, I spent so long getting high, like, and I'm still alive. I'm not like completely brain dead. So like, yeah, I got to try other things. Like I'm going to be more active. Maybe like I'm an old man. So like, I'll try to, maybe I'll try to get good at like fucking yoga or karate or I don't know. The world is, my oyster. Like there's not a lot of options when you're getting drunk a lot or you're addicted to booze or you're addicted to alcohol or heroin or pills or whatever you're addicted to, if it takes over your shit, it's like.
When I'm getting high, I do not do shit. I sit in a dark room and play Nintendo games. That's it.
I maybe wrote like a couple little things that like are even hard for me to even like, but it was so hard to write. It was like picking up 1,000-pound pen, it was like, ugh. Like I feel so much better writing sober.
I got clean in 2017, and that's when I really started.
Dude, listen, but this is what you did. You traded one addiction for the other. Like you stopped being addicted to dope and you started being addicted to this output that you're doing now because you get a kick from it.
Exactly.
And like, what's wrong with that? Like, so it's like we like if it's addiction, right?
Yeah.
Like you chase it. It makes you happy. It gives you fulfillment. Like, holy shit. Like, so why it's like, it makes me feel like, okay, like, listen, like there's hope in non-judgmental observation here. Like we've already done, like there's nothing new in heroin. When they come up with like, actually, I think I actually relapsed this last time because of fentanyl, because I think I had this one therapist who was like talking, listen, man, I remember him saying to me like, you don't even want to go out now, man. Cause it's crazy different now. The shit is 10 times stronger now. It'll fucking kill you. And I remember sitting there being like, you son of a bitch.
That sounds great.
You know anything about me, motherfucker? Have you been listening to me for 7 or 8 weeks? Now I have to try it. I want to know what this fentanyl is like. And tell you what, I hate it, and I couldn't stop doing it.
Wow.
Like, dude, that shit's crazy because I remember literally getting it the first time and being like, whoa, this tastes fucking like perfume. And then being like, oh shit. This is crazy, not like dope. Like, this is not the same.
Yeah.
And then I was out. And I was out for 20 minutes or so, but I didn't know what was going on. And when I woke up, I was in the same place and I might have been like mumbling to myself or something. And I was like, I don't like this. And I remember being like, this sucks, dude. Like, this is great. This is great that this sucks and I hate it because I'm never going to do this again. And then being like, I think I will do it one more time. We'll give it a try. And
that's what we do.
Yeah, but then I fucking fell in love with her, dude. Oh god, she fucking killed me, man.
I don't know if I've ever done it. I've had experiences where I passed out or fantasized a whole phone conversation that I didn't have, or went into some kind of weird dream state. But I don't know if that was just nodding or like a fentanyl experience.
Yeah, dude. Oh my god, I remember one time like going up to a hotel room and stopping, and after going down and meeting somebody who I did like Uber to get somebody. I had to find some crazy sketch person to go Uber somebody where somebody and then get it and come back. And it's a fucking nightmare, dude. It was always such a fucking nightmare. And then I remember falling asleep in a hotel bathroom and somebody being like, you all right in there? Cause I was like, hey, talking to my kids or something. And I'm like, and at that point I'm still fine. I'm still yeah, I'm just fucking just excess, man, to attain some kind of fucking oneness, bro. I don't know. I'm some fucking idiot. At the same time, I'm trying trying to like drink kombucha and like do yoga. You know what I mean? And meditate and all this shit. But also I'm like do heroin and smoke fentanyl.
So I have a question
I'm like
for
the
you.
ultimate 2021 fucking gen shit guru.
I have a question for you. Now, today in 2020, what does addiction and everything look like for you? And what I mean is, I've realized that I need to do a lot of work to manage it. There are plenty of times I still want to get high, but I focus that evil energy into positive things now, like you were talking about, Anthony. Like first it was the band, then it was the play. Now it's the podcast and the certification I'm working on. And I also do some work trying to help others. And I just harness that energy into positive things, and that keeps me on the right track. What does it look like for you? And do you still have like a lot of urges?
All right. So these days, it looks very similar to yours, like I love making music. That gives me a thrill. I have like my rituals throughout the day, like a little routine that helps me stay fixed in gear. And so and I like have little rituals to help me stay present in the moment that help me a lot. And music, I fill my day up with music. I have a ton of projects going on right now that like really all just give me so much fulfillment. They take nothing from me, give me everything. Mm-hmm. And everybody I work with, are people that like inspire me in some way, shape, or form. Not always in the way that you'd always think. But in some way, like they really work in the pH of my fucking shit and help make me like want to be a better person, and I stay engaged in the moment and I fall out of it constantly, and so it's like a balance. I've been like kind of taking a little step into my spiritual relationship with like why, at some point when, after you fucking die, and then want to die, like, and you're chill with that idea, and to come back from that, you literally have to set a mission statement for yourself and be like, why the fuck do I want to be here? And so I have made a little short list of those reasons, and I do a little inventory of those things every day, and I have like so much cool shit around me, and to be self-obsessed with the problems that I'm going to fixate on from time to time would be like a terrible mistake and a distraction from the reality of which is like we're very fortunate right now. So and helping people. First of all, I want to say I want to hear more about your play, and second of all, I think that in the nature of somebody who's been through the suffering that you've been through, that you can connect really well with this service, and part of this like podcast that you guys do with just talking about music and creating a place for people to go talk about music and their experiences with it, like, and praise it. It is part of that thing that helps give back and create something. I feel like when you're sitting around getting high, you're sort of like you're a void, and what you do when you turn that inside out, like you're doing, or like you replace that with something that's creative, or childlike in a creative way, and like you creative energy all around it and love, then you really like you expose it in a different way where you're giving back, you're radiating. And just in doing that, you exist in like a chain of joy for other people and just mere observance, and that's so you're in a way it's all of service.
And that's part of the mission statement of this podcast, because when I was really getting high in the darkest depths, I didn't have anybody in my life at all. And I would listen to Howard Stern, or I would listen to a podcast, and they were my friends.
Yeah. Can I tell you who you remind me of, Keith?
Yes, please.
And your humor, and I hope this doesn't fucking bum you out ever, because I hold this person in high regard, extremely high regard, an admirable human being. And sometimes you remind me of like Norm Macdonald.
Oh, I love that.
Okay. So like in just in a way where I'm like, it's just like you're even in your comedy and like just the way that you like, I'm like, damn dude, like you guys could be on the same bill and like kill it.
Norm, if you're out there, let's talk.
I think you guys should. He's got a cool podcast too that's like pretty wild and like actually intense.
I've seen that before. It's just him sitting in like sweatpants and a sweatshirt just talking shit to people.
And it's funny, the show looks like it's in somebody's like basement from like a PBS show. It's like crazy. And like people are like wasting on it, and he's so funny. But like that's the thing is like with things like podcasts, and I think that's why people are making podcasts now, is because like, dude, you know, you don't have to be like a great guitar player, a great drummer, or like a confident like vocalist to like just like have a conversation with your friends, and the qualifiable effect that you have when you connect with somebody is like beyond words. It's what religion talks about, you know. People call it God, people call it being in the moment, people take drugs to find it, but it really is just like the vulnerability connection of two people relating to each other beyond all the things that are obviously going to keep them separated, that are screaming at them from the world, you know. And you do that. People are making podcasts to do that. They want to have conversations, they want to connect more. And like I hate to say it, but like you want to say whatever about technology, but I think that it is like technology sort of finding a way, like roots of communication and humanity digging through the microchip of fucking whatever, like whatever the fucking void is of this shit that we have, like the internet is all shit, like whatever, like people are talking to each other now. Like you guys, I haven't talked to you guys in forever, you know, like, and we're talking about how the things we celebrate, we're talking about choosing life over death, and we're talking about like, you know, and that's a good thing, you know. So it's like,
and that's another reason I love this, because under normal circumstances, I probably wouldn't randomly call you to catch up just because I feel weird and I'm awkward.
So this was born out of you being like, hey man, I need to connect. Like that's why people go to 12. I want to connect. I'm going to just do this thing. So you took a leap. You showed vulnerability, and you showed like it takes vulnerability, because you put yourself out there. People are like, this sucks, you know, and you have to be like, okay, yeah, I'm going to make something people might say sucks. Like, and I'm going to like it. And that's certainly, you're an artist, you know? And I was so happy when I saw that you and Tommy were doing this, just because you guys are both, you were such a huge part of my experience with like opening myself up and becoming somebody who is comfortable to play live music in front of people. And you guys are two people that like, I always were like, man, I wish I could be in a band with them, or like, I wish I could talk to them more. Whenever I saw you were doing stuff or hanging out at like with Vadim or like going somewhere, I'm like, damn dude, like I'm always so busy with like a child being born or like a record getting thing, or like, and I only started working on time management like yesterday. So like, so it's like a cool thing to see you guys doing this.
It's a new thing for me too. And being clean and sober certainly helps that. But let's talk about some of those early music playing days. Now, the first time I saw Audience of One, everyone's young, yes, and everyone's figuring shit out, but there was a lot of talent in that band. JD was a virtuoso on drums.
Yeah, he tied
Anthony, you know, your lyrics and singing and songwriting and guitar playing really worked in that band. And Tommy, your bass playing was not just your standard bass playing. Like that Audience of One song that we use for the closing, like, do you hear the bass lines Tommy's playing? Like, dude, the run?
That's the thing that people, like, I don't think anybody, like, when people talk about Audience of One, like, a lot of the times they'll say something about me or they'll say something about JD, but they didn't realize, like, Tommy was fucking insane. Whether it was a guitar, and Tommy also rips at guitar, but like he played the bass like he was playing guitar leads. That made it sound like Flea. Like it was so out of left field. Like it was crazy. And it was also a thing where like, because a lot of the songs like were me doing weird half chords. So like a verse would be like me stopping playing and Tommy's bass line, you know, or like, you know, I would just rip one chord and Tommy's bass line would change a little bit. And it was like, that was enough to have it be its own thing, you know, like his shit was incredible. It was crazy.
I think I was just in the right place at the right time with a lot of that.
And like, honestly, Bob saw like people that were just trying to do like stuff that was like Captain Jazz, Promise Ring, Piebald, like, you know, loved stuff like that. And like wanted to like be like, all right, yeah, you guys can come and jam. You know what I mean? Like kind of gave us an opportunity to go and like already they knew everybody, you know, like, so it was like, you know, JD kind of snuck us in to an already existing crew with like This Day Forward and Boz Henna and Makeshift and Snatch and fuck, like, oh my God.
And the first time I saw you guys, I heard like, oh, we're going to see Audience One. They're awesome. They're awesome. I had no idea who any of you guys were. And I saw the show and I was blown away. And I remember Tommy wasn't wearing a shirt.
Yeah.
That's the thing that sticks out.
Yeah, dude.
Was it Doug Stock? Was that it?
No, I have no idea. It was one of those early like VFW hall shows or something. But
dude, there was a couple experiences that I had with Tommy, because those shows would be like, they would be like once a month, you know, like, or like once every 2 months, you know, and we would practice for them, and like oh man, like, and every song was like a new, like, you didn't really, like, we tried to make tapes, but everything, it was like, dude, every show was like you were recording your live best performance for the people there. Like, it was a different feeling that, dude, it was so visceral. And I remember being so excited, like nothing I've ever felt before, dude. And some of those shows, like I remember what's her face's basement, Charlene's basement.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
With The End. And I remember that Audience of One show was like the last show before JD went to college, and like everything got weird after that. And it was like the best thing ever. It was the best show we ever, and we were so tight as a band, and we had like fucking 20 songs or something like that we would just jam on. You know, like,
you guys were a powerhouse live. Yeah, I remember The End would come down and request to see videotapes of you guys.
Oh, fuck, dude, I love that. Dude, oh my God, I had so much fun. And I remember some of those shows, dude. I remember playing at the Triumph YMCA. I remember playing at fucking St. Ephraim's and like at Palanca, and then fucking Doug's, and in places in the city. Like dude.
We had a couple Kill Time shows.
Oh my God, that was
I lost my shit. I lost my shit at you at that one Kill Time show because you.
I was on acid.
Yeah, you got all fucked up before the show, and I'm like, keep in mind,
that was our last show ever.
Was that the last one?
Last show ever. I ate acid at school, and it was an awful day. And then she took me. It was microdots. It was mescaline.
Oh my God.
And that's when the microdots were around, and I didn't know it was gonna last for like fucking 20 hours or whatever it was. So I didn't know what's happening, and I was with my brother watching Powerpuff Girls all day.
Oh yeah, so Anthony gets up on stage.
Dude, okay, so we played. First of all, Greg Edson was supposed to be there. Didn't show up. I was so pissed. I was high on acid. I was using somebody else's guitar, and then I broke a string 2 songs in. Gang, gang, gang. I played that song, and then I broke a string. And then I couldn't figure out how to change it. And then the guy from All Else Failed was like, "Hey, here's my guitar," which he handed me like a fucking hollow body, like he handed me like a Rickenbacker or something, like he handed me like a nice guitar, like a Brian Setzer. He handed me like this cool guitar, and I was like, oh, and I'm like borrowing a guitar for the show. Like, I'm like, dude, and I'm tripping, and he's like, yeah, it's tuned to blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, huh? And I'm looking at the tuner, and I'm like trying to tune it, and I can't tune it. And I go to play the next song, and Tommy's looking at me, and I'm like, what's happening? And I'm fucked up, and I stop, and JD's upset, and Tommy's like, what the fuck, dude? And I'm like, I'm out. And I put the guitar down, and I walked away, and the girl and I got into the car, and it was fucking like, it was like ice. I remember driving home. It took me like 3 hours drive home from West Philly.
Oh.
And that was the last. It was the Kill Time, and it was the last Audience One show, and I was sure it was going to be the last time I ever played a concert in my life. You know, and for a while, I remember thinking I would never play a show again, and I was like, went to college, and I worked on music, and I did some stuff, but like I never could be in a, like my parents never, like I could never be in a band. You know what I mean? Like, and I remember Vince. I remember recording Zoloft stuff with Vince.
Yeah.
And then being like, I'm in Zoloft. And then I started, when I went to college, I was away at college, but I also was like, it was the first time I got into like Oxycontin, which was like before dope, but also dope. But like Oxycontin turned into dope because Oxycontin became so expensive.
Yeah.
And then dope was like the thing. And then Oxycontin.
It must have been like 2003.
Yes. It was right after, it was 2003. It was right after I graduated from high school. And because I had experimented with dope in high school but never and pills, but never really got that bad until I was in college. I like had a couple really bad incidences where like I'd get pills or I would get dope from people I knew that went to like Council Rock or whatever. But just because I wanted to do it, I remember like just like loving like band. Like I remember like, oh well, fucking, you know, like Alice in Chains, fucking Nirvana. Like I want to try it. You know what I mean? Like, and it was so boring in the suburbs. And like, you know, to me, I thought of like weed, all that stuff was just like a portal to another world anyway. So I was like,
right.
I was just like trying to travel before I had, you know, the means to, you know.
So I have a question. Let's get this out in the open. At one point, Tommy was kicked out or replaced in Audience of One.
It's going to come up. God damn it. This is one of the worst memories I ever had in my whole life.
Dude,
it would be healthy to talk about it.
You know what happened, though? And you know who I'm going to throw under the bus for this?
Oh, yeah. No,
yes, I do.
I know it.
Because Tommy literally seduced me into thinking that he was a better bass player and that he would sing and that he was going to be a better friend and all. Like I just was like, dude, and he like I think he just wanted to be in the band. Yeah. And like and it was like a thing where I was like hanging out with Tom. I was going to the mall. Maybe he did it on. Maybe I was easy prey. Maybe we were best buddies. I don't remember. We were going to the mall every day, me and Tom, and we were hanging out all the time. And I remember being in Audience and getting him to and being like, dude, I have to do it. Like, I think, you know, he like convinced me we're gonna have more shows and all this stuff because he was it was like a thing. I remember like, all right, this is the best thing for the band. Tommy will understand. You know, I hate his girlfriend at the time.
Oh yeah. Oh wait a minute, who was it at the time?
You know who it was.
To begin with an H. Yeah.
Oh, my bad though. For saying this, but at the time I hated her so much, dude. And I was like, fuck, and then I was just like, fuck it.
The closer to that story though is, do you remember having this conversation outside of JD's house? Do you remember when you were like, yo, I need you back in the band? So this is my take on it. I went to one of the shows that Tommy played. My quick take on it was basically like, he is a very good bass player, but he was trying to kind of do like these very extravagant things. And it's like, sometimes the root notes are, sometimes less is more. And I think a lot of it came down to like, he's kind of like, you know, he's new in the band. He wanted to prove himself. And I remember
he was focusing so much on like singing and playing that it like sacrificed some of the note value. I remember, and he did like, he would go so wild that it was like cool to see, but it would like, he would just go off. And Tommy was like, he was so like stationary, but like he was just so fucking on it. Like he was a machine.
My thing was like, I worked well with JD because JD was like he was a band kid. So like the biggest thing with playing with someone like JD is you have to watch. You
watched him, and every photo you see of Audience of One, you see Tommy watching JD too.
Yeah, because you gotta
every
watch
photo of us ever live. You just see Tommy's like got his back to everybody. He's just watching JD
because you have to watch the percussive parts because the biggest thing is like JD's such a good player. He does these accents all over.
I don't even remember playing with Tommy. That's the thing. Is like I think I remember playing with him in JD's basement, and I remember it being fun, you know. But I remember being really traumatized by traumatizing you and feeling like I was like I was like abandoning you. And then what you want to know a backstory behind that. So Tom was dating this girl and we were hanging out a lot and he was in the band. And then one day we met up and he like got in my face and he was like, why the fuck are you flirting with whatever her name was? And I was like, what? And I was like, what the fuck is wrong with you? You think I don't fucking know? I'll fucking kill you. And I was like, what?
Whoa!
What, bro? And I'm like,
remember this now.
I kind of flirt with you. Like I flirt with everybody, man. Like my bad. Like I'm not gonna say I didn't flirt with her, but like I'm not trying to fuck your girlfriend. Like, but then I was like, fuck this shit. I'm not gonna be like Tommy and I have had actual fist fights. And he's never made me feel like that. Yeah. Like he's beaten me up. Like we've tried to fight where Tommy beats me up, but he's never made me feel like that. and that was awful. And we didn't talk for a while, and I was like, hey, Tommy's not going to be in the band anymore. Like, I'm not going to play with him anymore. And like, I think also JD was going to college, and we had like, didn't we have shows with you? Like, we had shows like after that.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No, we had a bunch of shows after that.
And then remember we had tried to have Pete join the band.
Pete.
Oh, Pete Helmus.
We had Pete from Halfway to Holland.
Yeah.
We jammed with him 3 times, and and then it like wasn't working out or something. Like, he just was like terribly shy, and like he was so good.
Yeah, he's a really good player.
He was so good, but then something happened where I just felt like. And then the next time I heard him playing, he was in his band was so fucking good, and it was incredible. I remember him helping me make Audience of One demos at his house.
Wow.
And Algernon's one of my favorite bands of, like in like top 20 favorite bands in the last like fucking 10 years.
Yeah, they're legends now.
I mean, he is like, what's funny about like that you say that, like, Audience of One, like Arlene's house, like when Tom was back in the band, and it was like after Greg Itzen had left, and we were like, wasn't in it, and it was just a 3-piece, and we were like a tight little group, and JD was going to go to college and not play, and we were just going to like, and I was trying to figure, and I couldn't tour anyway because my parents like would fucking kill me, and I didn't know I was going to have to go to college anyway, and I just, I remember like, I don't know, just feeling like so, like I was done, like I was it. Like that was all I ever wanted. Like Audience of One was the most and the highest I ever expected to ever get in making music. We had a CD. We had a 4-song EP that was so cool that I was like wanting to do stuff with, but honestly, just making it and having it to just give to somebody at the time, like to put it on like a streaming service. Like I remember being like at the beginning of the time where I'm like, dude, I can just put this on the internet. Like I can put this on a thing. Like I remember just feeling like, I don't even care if I'm not trying to get signed. Like I could make a tape of this right now. I have it on a CD. It was like before, like, I remember thinking that was the top of my game. I had it. I played it for people that I went to like I played it, and Vince, when he kicked me out of Zoloft for being a drug fucking fiend, dickhead and monster, who I probably was, crazy person, lying sack of shit, whatever I was, just in a fantasy world, he let me record for 2 or 3 days in there for this project that have songs that I wrote over the course of a couple years, and it turned into this like High and Driving EP that I like used to like be like, hey, I have this band that was just me playing everything except the drums, which Timmy Arnold play. Yeah. And there were songs that I recorded on a 4-track in my house, demoed out, and then went into the studio with what I had in the demo and had Tim come in having never heard anything, or just listening to the demo on the way to get a breakfast sandwich and then go to the studio, which I promised him money, I think, but I'd never paid him. And we jammed in the studio and recorded it. And we would take the best recording of the best take of the best structure that we would put together that I would just throw together from playing. Like, all right, we'll do this 4 times. Then we're going to go into this part 4 times. And then we'll do this. And then you stop and then you go back in. And that was like it. And we did that. And like, at the time, I didn't realize, and we would do the thing a couple times until we got it right. And then I would put vocals over that. And a lot of the times I had the vocals mapped out, but I would kind of write them on the spot. Like I would just kind of scream out words that I had written on my paper that I would write the night before or whatever. And then I would listen back and I would hear what I was screaming, and I would scream another thing over that. And I would like the studio became like the ultimate instrument.
Wow.
So like I was singing along with myself, and melodies got written that way because I didn't really know how to write. Like that was like building blocks of melodies. So like, and a lot of things became like, okay, I can do this, and then I can do this over it. And then, we figure it out. And so I did 4 songs where it was just like layering shit and put it together. And the night before I had Tim do the drums. I did bass that I like made up by myself. And then the night before I had a pepper eating contest with like my girlfriend's uncle, and like I got fucked up. And I was chugging milk the whole time I was singing the vocals just to get through the takes because I literally wanted to die because of this acid indigestion that I never felt before in my life.
Yeah.
And I was wasted drunk and I ate all these habaneros and I was just swallowing them whole, like barely chewing them and swallowing like, I don't feel anything.
Oh my God.
And then woke up at like 7 a.m, like wanting to die and was drinking more alcohol and then drinking milk.
Ugh.
To try to like dissolve the acid from the alcohol and then drinking like straight up like baking soda and water. And just smoking pounds of weed, like cigarettes, just trying to like, and I'm like a mess in the studio, like trying.
Do you sound like the singer of Zayo on that EP?
Dude, I sound like a little kid that's singing out. I sound my nose is so. I hate my voice, but I had such a fun experience playing with it, and afterwards I had something I was proud to play for people, and you know. That didn't have anything to do with anything. Like later on, Vince let me go in and record vocals over Saosin demos, and that's what made me become able to play with Saosin. So that's what I was going to ask. So you didn't have a plan to go into music? Dude, I wanted to go into like I wanted to be a hobo. And I saw music as a thing where like, dude, if I could sing, I don't need anything. I could literally bail and I'll be the one to sing and I don't need shit and I don't need any luggage and I can have a backpack. It was like, it was like it was like pure essentialism, it was like, all right, it was easy. It was minimalism,
So how did it work with Saosin? Now, Keith Goodwin told us the story that Bo was looking for singers and actually, Keith recommended not to contact you because you... The
story that I've heard from Bo is that he was like, Keith, he wanted Keith to sing for the band. That's what he told me. And that he was like, Keith, like, how do we get you to sing to the band? Like, do you have anybody that sounds like just like you? Like, almost like being like, I want you to sing. Like, who can I get that's just like you? Like, like trying to poach him, like using that. And he was like, yeah, I don't like, I don't know, like nobody really comes to mind. And then Mike Dufresne was like, Anthony Green kind of like is great. And then Keith was like, yeah, no, Anthony's crazy and he's an asshole and he'll quit your band.
Yeah. Yeah.
And,
no, that's exactly what Keith said.
He hit the fucking nail right on the head, baby.
Yeah.
I was and did all those things. I think they were like, he's just out of rehab and he's crazy. And so those guys were like, at the time, like they were like, I think they heard that and were like, probably like, yeah, fuck yeah, let's get that guy.
Exactly,
like, I think they had this fantasy of like they had like this California mentality, where it was like, I remember meeting them and being like, they were like, dude, you just gotta fucking go for it. You gotta act like you gotta seem pro if you want to be pro. I remember them saying that to me and being like, that kind of makes sense. You know what I mean? But at the same time, like, I didn't really know anything, and I was very like, I got out there, dude, and those guys wanted to be in a band that was like a band that could like make a living. And I was so into that idea, like as like a thing I was just riffing on. Like I was like, dude, I sang for a band at home, like fucking whatever, dude. Like I don't want to be living in my parents' house. Like you give me a place to crash, like I'll give it my all, and I did. Like I didn't know what I was doing and I didn't like even fake that I know what I was doing. I went along for the ride, dude. I like did the dance, and I learned like I worshipped beatniks, growing up. My brother, like the first books I ever read were like, like William Burroughs and like shit. Like I fell in love with like poetry and like shit where I was like fantasized about wanting to get away from my suburban prison, like I didn't I knew I was privileged. Like I wanted to go see, I wanted to jump over the fucking, the kingdom walls, like my parents would be like, you can't, you go here, you're not going to be able to hit us up for money or come back. And I'm like, that's the point. Like, I want to go experience life where I do what I want and I can like, I had this fantasy of going out and like literally figuring it out as I go. Like the guy from like the guy from the show Kung Fu, like just like chilling, going for it, meeting people. Like
I love that.
Playing guitar, singing. Like I have a couple songs, like I could play Baby Girl. I remember getting drunk at school and playing Baby Girl for people and then being like, that's cool. Which like became a solo song, or show like, and essentially was Show Your Teeth.
Which I think this is
one song.
This bears repeating. This is one of those things that like Anthony is like one of those people that when you meet him, this is like, he's like a machine. When it comes to like drinking, it was insane. I do remember getting in the car with you a couple times in the morning, and keep in mind, we had to be at school at 7:40 and we lived like 45 minutes away. So we had like basically almost an hour drive. So it's like 6:30 in the morning. We're getting in our car and we would switch off like who drove which day. And I remember getting in the car with Anthony, like, and we kept all of our like dress shirts like in the back seats. Like we never had clean clothes. We just like would have like we had to wear a tie to school, so we always had just like
we would just unslip it like the unslipped noose. Yep. And then like we never tied it or anything. Like I kept all my clothes were in Tommy's car. And what was cool is like we would take the dress shirt off or sometimes leave it on, and just like you just add a hoodie to whatever we wore to school, and that's like what we wore to shows or to like parties or whatever. Like Tommy got away with wearing like black skate shoes.
Oh my god!
And like I would wear like black Vans. Like they just like didn't notice, or they would yell at you and like didn't give a shit. Like Tommy and me like both were bussed in from like Bucks County, and like we like kids came from like Doylestown and like New Hope, or like, but we were like, I don't know. I feel like a bunch of the people at that school, like both saw him and me and were like, whatever.
Yeah.
Like they didn't fuck with us so hard because we were like actual weirdos. Like
there was a kid at our high school that I remember. Do you remember? We had the kid on the hockey team. Remember who his grandfather was? Frank Rizzo.
Yeah, dude, that was fucking crazy.
And
he was like driving to school when he was 15. In like a fucking Cadillac. I'm like, wait, dude, you're you're like a sophomore, bro. Like you're driving. What the fuck is wrong with you? Also, we literally would like, it was a different time in life. We were like smoking weed and cigarettes outside, like really right outside the door of the cafeteria.
Yeah.
A lot of drugs in the school, but they were like, it wasn't a lot of drugs in the sense where there was a lot of drug users. It was a very like small community of people that did the drugs. A lot of people smoked weed. A lot of people drank, but it was like maybe a dozen or so people that like fucked around with like acid, other hallucinogens, or like fucking like opiates and cocaine and would, I don't know.
I like what you said about kind of your ticket out of the suburbs and just this life of traveling and vagabondness, and that I love that I imagine that for myself too.
And that's the thing that attracts you to music in the first place. Like Keith, you were having, I remember seeing As Friends Rust at your house. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I remember you being like, yeah, man, like you just wanted to be you were down to be a part of anything no matter what. And like it was like a thing where back then, just being around music and being able to be a part of it, like it introduced me to the idea. Like, remember Tommy went on tour with JD before I could. Like, he went out of the state and did shit I couldn't leave. My parents wouldn't let me. Like I had to lie to my parents to drive to fucking West Philly. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, same.
Do you remember?
I don't know.
I was just saying, I was bringing this up when I was talking to Keith. I was like, do you remember how crazy my mom was?
Yeah, dude. I was bummed because Tommy had to do chores, bro.
It was like I came home. My mom would leave it. So my mom worked. It depended on like what year it was, but my mom at one point in time was working at the men's rehab, like the prison, and she picked up second shift. So she would go in at 11 o'clock in the morning and come home at 7 o'clock or 8 o'clock at night. And every day I came home from school, there was literally a list of chores on the dinner or on the kitchen table that just said, empty and fill the dishwasher, fold laundry, put laundry away, rake leaves. Like it was literally like every day. There was never like it was like, I can't just come home and unwind. It was like, nope, I just came home from a ridiculous school day and then a 45-minute drive on top of that. And then fucking let's do a bunch of housework. And it's like, it was such my mom was so strict that when she was like, hey, you want to go? Like, I was like, Mom, my band got a bunch of shows. We're going to go and play a couple of them. And she was like, oh, okay. It was like the most out of character thing I've ever heard her say. Like, it was just like, it floored me. I remember I was sitting at my kitchen table when we were telling her about it, because I remember when Rich had left A Life Once Lost, Doug was like, hey, I want you to play bass for A Life Once Lost, and had a conversation with my mom. Literally sat at my kitchen table and tried to explain to my mom what touring was like, where we were going, where we were staying. My mom wanted like an itinerary, and Doug was like, "We're sleeping on someone's floor," and she was like, and my mom was like, "Okay, well, that's nice. My son won't be doing that." I pay in a lot.
So you weren't allowed?
Not for A Life Once Lost. No, A Life Once Lost, I wasn't allowed. But yeah, the Audience of One tour, I was allowed for a good chunk of it, and then
it was literally like 4 days or 5 days.
Well, it ended in Pittsburgh, and then remember, JD's dad's van got stolen with all the equipment in it.
Now you're playing with Saosin. This is probably when you're like, okay, I'm gonna do this music thing, right? Because you're getting some heat, right? You're touring. You're doing it.
We're touring. We're doing tours with bands that I really like, and we're getting cool opportunities. And then shit starts getting like crazy to the point where like I feel like I'm sort of like losing myself, and I'm like at one point when I went out there, I like wasn't really drinking and smoking anymore because I had been to rehab for the first time, and I was like trying to chill. And then I started drinking a little bit, and then I started smoking a little bit, and then I'm like singing in this band, and I'm out in California, and I'm like kind of being wild, you know what I mean? And I sort of feel like I'm getting away from myself. And I remember wanting to work on music, but like it just like Bo was also like doing like needing to make a living and producing a lot of stuff. And I remember we were shopping the band around, and we did a couple things that were really cool, but I just like remember feeling like at one point like they don't really I just remember feeling like I don't know, I went home and was hanging out with Colin, and I'd always wanted to be in a band with him, and This Day Forward was over, and I felt like I had like more confidence in my ability to like be somebody who could like it was the first like Saosin was like I had been in a band and done other stuff, but Saosin was the first time anybody was ever like, dude, you're like good at something, and these guys are really good at this thing, and like you know, and so I was really scared that I wouldn't be able to do that again. And I also like didn't know how to communicate at all. So like not feeling connected to those guys was not something I knew how to say like, hey guys, I want to get more connected to you so we can do all this. So I essentially just ran from it. They were signing we were talking about signing to Atlantic for like a lot of money. They had just signed to like Thursday, they signed Fall Out Boy. And we were going from like it went all of a sudden we were signing to we were going to talk to Fiddler Records and put out an EP, and then that went to like Epitaph, and then that went to like Interscope, and then that was and then we were meeting with Island Def Jam, and I was like, holy shit. And all of a sudden it was like, yeah, you get to go home and hang out, and then we'll call you when it's time to do vocals, and we're going to get songwriters. And I was like, okay. And then I just like I think I just felt I also came home, got my wisdom teeth out, and started taking painkillers and was like, you know what? I'm going to stay here and start my own band. And that, so there was all these different things that came into play, and Saosin were great dudes. And I think I did not know how to communicate. And had I come to them with my feelings, who knows what would have happened. But as much as I regret just bailing, leaving high and dry, like I feel like the way it all went down worked out the better for everybody. And I'm in that band now, which is cool. And we've jammed with their other singer, and you know, we're making music right now. You know what I mean? Like there's no beef. I remember a time when I was in Circa where I would have nightmares about running into them at a festival or on tour or in an airport. And yeah, we're like buddies, all of us.
Did you ever run into them when things were tense?
We had a couple of weeks where we played a Warped Tour, where we were like on the Ernie Ball stage and they were playing main stage, and they hadn't put out they put out their full length, and it was like they were huge, you know, and they were massive. And I remember watching them every day, and they would like play their new songs, and people would go wild and people would go crazy, but then they would play like songs from the EP, and I liked their new songs too. Like the songs they made with the new singer, I was like, this is cool. And I hate admitting it. It sounded like Further Seems Forever or whatever. But then I would watch them live and I'd be like, this doesn't bum me out. And he would play my songs, and they would play my songs. And although I would watch him and be like, this doesn't bum me out. It's cool. He can do whatever. I don't give a fuck. The people singing along gave me this feeling where I was like, I want that again. And I had it a little bit with Circa because like it just like came a little bit, but I just did, I remember watching that and being like, damn, I think I lost the chance to do this on a big scale. Like I'm not going to mess up the chance to do this on a smaller scale. And then, I still have that mentality, like that's my mentality. And I love the stuff they did with them, and right now, like I'm making music with so many different people from like the comfort of, from the confinement of my home. And I get to play concerts. Like the other day I did a live stream and there was like, at like the weakest moment of the live stream, there's like 700 people watching at a moment. And that's like more than a normal fucking like solo show I would play. Like I play a solo show in your city, wherever, fucking maybe 100 people, 200 people tops. You know what I mean? I'm not trying to go any more than that. Like that's a fucking big show for me. You know what I mean? Like, and that's cool. And it's free for anybody that can watch all over. It's not like confined to one city. I can be with my robe.
That's great. Yeah.
If you got Bitcoin, you could throw me a fucking cyber shekel.
I love that you got back together with Saosin and did that record. And when I went to Detox, I got out and I was like, oh, Saosin put out a new record. Let me check that out. And I always really connected with Second Guesses.
Yeah, dude.
That is the track. It always still reminds me of that time. And the one line where you're like, sober up and you can see more than what you wanted.
Yeah, it's way more than what you wanted. Dude, that's so cool.
Once you give up that lifestyle and you're like trying to figure shit out and discovering more about yourself, it's incredibly difficult, but just awesome, incredibly awesome.
Yeah. Like people will tell you like, and when you're in sobriety or like when you're working on your sobriety, people will be like, man, it's like life beyond your wildest dreams. And you're like, fuck you, asshole. What? Go back to fairyland where you fucking Lucky Charms and shit. Get out of here. And, but then when you are living autonomously and you're doing what you want and you're living in your purpose, your like true calling, whatever that is, and you have that type of fulfillment and that connectivity and you're living in service, you actually do feel pretty good. Like, and people die and shit happens that you don't want and you lose things and you gain things. But it's like when you have those other things in order, there's manageability there that comes with like the clarity of having that type, just like trying for that sort of autonomy.
Yeah. And what I've realized is when they say life beyond your wildest dreams, that doesn't mean like I'm suddenly going to be in a band and be really famous and have all my empty childhood dreams fulfilled. It just means that really cool shit that you don't expect is going to happen.
Here's the thing, dude. It's like boiling it down. Like if what you want, like let's say that's somebody's thing. Like I want to be in a band. I want to be really famous. Like, okay, you really boil that down for a minute. And what that becomes is like, I just want to be loved.
Yes.
I want to be accepted. I want to be accepted for who I am. I want to be celebrated for that. And the answer to those things are celebrating other people like that. Like if you want, like you don't need to be a rock star. The answer to that isn't like getting likes or having a lot of hits or becoming a brand. Like when you become like, man, what I really want is to just be loved. The answer to that is to go out and give love, compassion, like, condition free love and compassion. Like the other day, I had an experience, like my fucking dog died of like 12 years. Okay.
Yeah.
I go to the vet. I have to put my dog down. It's fucking heavy as shit. Okay. And this woman who I'm friends with, who lives like right near me, who has 4 daughters, single mom, going through a terrible year, texts me. I'm literally walking out. I'm alone. I'm sobbing. Said bye to one of my best friends who can't talk. It was like crazy experience. I was in deep sense of grief. And Lupe, my friend is hitting me up and she's telling me stuff that's going on with her in this text. And I immediately was like, fuck, Lupe, come over right now.
Yeah.
And she's like, I'm on my way. And so she comes over, and I come home. I stop and got a pack of cigarettes because I wanted a fucking cigarette after fucking feeling my dog watching my dog die. And then Lupe just came, and she needed to connect. And I needed to connect too. And I needed to connect outside of this self-obsession that I was having with my grief that was just an attachment thing. Not saying that I wasn't dealing with it, but having her come over, she needed somebody to talk to. I needed somebody to talk. And it was like this beautiful dance that we did where we cried with each other. And the antidote to that, my feeling was this compassion for someone else. Rather than be like, oh, sit there and be obsessed with this grief that isn't going to go away. I got to be there for somebody else, and that helped me deal with my grief in a true way,
That's great. And that is my approach too. When I'm going through it, I reach out to others. I try to help others. I throw myself into whatever service I can do. And also, my condolences on the dog, because
listen, I hate doing that too, because I'm not the type of, I'm not the type of person that's going to be like, oh man, this smells like shit. Take a whiff of this. You know what I mean? There's certain things that I don't want to burden other people with. I had 12 years with this dog who was the most amazing friend. And I actually feel more connected to her now. And my attachment to her is a kind of a physical human thing that I need to let go of. Unlike my love for her is bigger than that. So, I appreciate that, but I can't celebrate her by being too sad.
I get real attached to pets, and I'm already fearing the day when we lose one of our cats. So I feel you on the pet tip.
You cannot be prepared for it no matter what happens. And
right.
It's a process that is profound. And I found a lot of healing in it. It was like a psychedelic experience, I think.
The only way out is through.
Yeah. The only way from the gallows, the only way down from the gallows is to swing, baby.
There you have it, folks. That's part 1 of our discussion with Anthony Green. Be sure to tune in next Monday, same time, same place, for part 2. We have a lot more ground to cover. I'm also going to be doing a wrap-up with Tommy, and we'll read some feedback from you, the listeners. So thanks, everybody, for listening, and until next time.